All right, it is 8:50. Then let's commence the class properly. So, good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome to another edition of Strategic Financial Management. In today's class, we shall look at convertible bond. Convertible bond class. Now, class, what is a convertible bond? A convertible bond or a convertible debenture is a debt instrument, right? Is a debt instrument that gives the right to the holder, but not an obligation to convert their shares or redeem their shares, right? Or redeem their debt. Now, what this means is that if you have a debt instrument, for instance, a case study of MTN bond that was issued, I think around November, right? If, for instance, if Mr. Dimeji buy the bond, right, subscribe to the bond, which is the debt instrument, Mr. Dimeji have the rights, but not an obligation. Mr. Dimeji have the right to say, oh, MTN Nigeria, for instance, for the purpose of this, MTN Nigeria, please, I want to convert my debt to equity. It is actually what? Possible. That is why it is called convertible bond or convertible debt. Now, it is your right to convert that particular debt to equity, but it is not an obligation. There is no law that says, oh, you must. No, right? So it is based on your right. It based on your discretion that, oh, you look at MTN bond may not give you what you want. Okay, please, I want to convert my debt, my what is it called, bond, because you are the holder of the bond, right? You are the holder, right? You are like a lender, because when you subscribe to a particular bond, you have become like a lender to the firm. It will become a cost to the firm, while it will become a return to you, right? Now, it is just your right to say, oh, you want to convert this bond to shares, or you want to redeem it. Redemption means that I don't want to convert to shares at the date of maturity. For instance, if the date of maturity is just 5 years, you could say, oh, I need my principal and interest as at the date of maturity. That is redemption, right? Don't forget redeemable debt, right? It has a specific period. It could be 5 years, right? So that is why convertible bond is of two ways. Either it gives the holder the right to convert, or you redeem. Either you say you want to convert it to shares, or you say you want to redeem it. Class, are we still together, please? Let me establish that. Are we still together, please? Hello? Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
okay, thank you. Now, if that
Yes,
is
sir.
established, okay, thank you. If that is established, then we will look at the cost of a convertible bond. Now, how do we determine the cost of a convertible bond, right? Now, don't forget that convertible bond or convertible debenture have two elements. Either you convert it or you redeem it. Class, either you convert it or you do what? You redeem that particular what? That particular debt, right? Redemption means that, I will say it again, means that at the date of your maturity, at the date of the maturity, you collect your principal as well as the interest as and what? As and when due. Now, if that is established, when you want to determine the cost of a convertible bond, you do what? The higher of the two. Of course, if if you are the lender, of course, I'm putting it to you, Rachel. I'm putting it to you, Ibrahim. I'm putting it to you, Bukola. Yeah, of course, if you are the lender of that particular bond, right? You will decide to choose the higher of convertible and the what? Redemption, which is redeemable. Of course, because you want to make a higher return on your what? On your investment. And now don't forget that at the beginning of this class, I've explained that you have the right to convert it if you think the pound will not give you higher return. Is that not so? So that is why, as a rational investor, you should be able to think that, oh, which one of these two will give you the what? The higher what? Higher return, which means it will be a cost to the firm, right? Now, the higher of either you convert it or you redeem it. For instance, now, when you calculate the value of convertible, right? When you calculate the value of convertible, you have like 100 naira, right? And your redemption value, which is your redeemable value at the date of the maturity, it could be no, it cannot be 200, right? It can be 200 maybe at premium. We'll talk about that. Probably is 200 or 1000, right? And don't forget that convertible is 100 and the redemption or redeemable value is 1000. You can see, you can decide to go for the debt because it has the what? Higher return. Because to you, please, let's look at cost of debt as a cost to the firm, you as a return to you, right? Is that not so? Because it is your right to choose any of the higher of the what? Higher of the what? Higher of the two. Now, why I'm saying this is because you will see so many questions under convertible value, under the convertible debenture or convertible bond, right? Question will come like this, right? Now, how do you determine the value of convertible value? What will you use to determine your what? Your convertible what? Your convertible value, right? Now, if you see on my screen, I have CV to determine the convertible value is calculated if growth rate is given in the question, right? Now, which means that when you want to, if the convertible value is not given, and you need to look for the higher of convertible value as well as what? The redeemable value, right? Redemption, right? Now, if it is not given, if the convertible value is not given, what you need to do is that, and you have your growth rate given to you in the question, right? Now, CV, it is not normal curriculum vitae, oh, not that one, no. CV equals to VE, then we have the 1 plus growth rate, close bracket, raised to power R, right? Raised to power what? Raised to power R, where CV is what? Is your convertible. Is your what? Convertible value, right? Or you say it is expected market value of the convertible bond. Of course, it is expected market value of the what? Of the convertible what? Convertible bond in the what? In the future. Because you borrow bond now, MTN bond now is for like maybe for like 3 years, right? Now, what will be the value in the future? What will be the convertible value in the future? Because of course, you need to determine the value of a what? Of a convertible bond. What will be the value of this convertible bond if I want to convert it to shares, right? In the future, right? Now, at the same time, the VE represents the expected market price of equity per share. Of course, the VE is what? Expected market price of equity per share. If they say equity market price of equity per shares, it means that if if your ordinary shares is, for instance, 10,000 naira, right? And your numbers of shares is 10,000 shares. 10,000 naira divided by 10,000 naira will give you a what? 1 naira per shares. That is per shares. Per shares. Market value, market price of equity per shares, right? Now, the G, which is the growth rate, right? If it is given in the question, you need to determine the value of the convertible what? Convertible bond, right? Using this formula, if the growth rate is given. Why the N represents what? The numbers of years, right? Why the R represent the conversion ratio, right? That means that if you want to convert your convertible bond to shares, right? You need to determine the convertible value. If the convertible value is not given in a question, you need to determine the convertible value using this stated formula, right? And the formula is of two ways, because if you can decide to use it, you may decide to say, oh, I want to use this formula, and the growth rate is not given in the question. So or so what will you now use to calculate the value of the convertible bond, right? So now you can see on my screen, you have what? You have or if the growth rate is not given in the question, the value of convertible is calculated as what? The convertible share price. It will be given that, oh, this will be if you want to convert this debt to shares, right? If you want to convert this debt to shares, it will be probably share price will be 2 naira or 4 naira per shares times times nominal value of the bond times the what? The nominal value of the bond. Now, what is the nominal value? When we get to bond valuation, right? Bond valuation, one of the partner will take you bond valuation where you will now understand more of that part, right? Now, the nominal value of a bond is a value being placed on a bond, is a face value, right? And the nominal value of a bond could be either 1,000 or 100, right? Depends on what is being given in the question, right? Don't forget that I said that the value of convertible bond, right? If you want to convert it to shares, will be calculated using two formulas. Either you use the first formula given to you if the growth rate is given, then the second one, or if the growth rate is not given in the question, you look for the value, you look for the convertible share price, the share price of the convertible bond. You look at it, it will be given in the question, right? Times the nominal value of the bond, which I said the nominal value of the bond is the face value of a bond, right? Being placed on a bond, it could be what? 100 or what? Or 1,000. It depends on what is given in the question, right? Now, and this is how to determine the value of convertible bond. Now, before I move to the redeemable value, right? Before I move to the redeemable value, do you have anyone who wants to ask question? Or let me finish the redeemable value. Don't forget that where we are coming from is from the how to determine the cost of a convertible bond. If you want to determine a cost of a convertible bond, is of two ways. You use the higher of convertible value if you are given that if this particular person, if I don't want to convert my bond with if I want to convert my bond that is with MTN for instance to shares, right? It will be given like that. Then you will see it at the end of this class. You will see, we will look at small illustration, like a simple illustration to convertible what? Convertible bond, right? Now, the higher of the two, right? Now, if you want to determine the convertible value, you use this if the growth rate is given in the question. But when the growth rate is not given in the question, that is when you will now use the value. You will now use the convertible share price, right? Times the nominal value of the what? Of the bond. And the nominal value of the bond could be 100 or 1,000, depends on what is given in the what? In the question. Now, you will now use that to calculate your convertible value if it is not given in the question. Then you still need to check for your redeemable value. Then the higher of the two, right? Now, the redeemable value, right? The redeemable value is always given in the question as per. Now, class, at this stage, per means 100. For instance, now, in a question, you may see a question that they will tell you that the redeemable value is at par. The redeemable value is at par. If they say a redeemable value is at par, what it means is that is 100. When they say a nominal value of or is at par, par means 100. Now, at the date of the redemption, right? Redeemable value could be at premium. Now, what do I mean by that? right? If it is not 100, it could be at premium, it could be at discount, right? Depends on how the question comes. Now, let me open your mind to something here this evening. Now, when they said something is at par, at premium, which means that it is above 100. It is above 100 because the normal standard is 100, right? And they say something is at premium, which means that it is above that 100. Let me say, for instance, now, the premium could be given as 5% premium of 5% premium of the nominal value. When they just mention nominal value is 100, right? Or if they say it is at par, which is 100, and they say, oh, the premium is 5% of the nominal value. And when you look at the nominal value given to you in the question is 100, what you need to do is that check the 5% of that 100, right? 5% of 5% of that 100, right, which is 5, plus add it together with the 100, which is what? 105. You can see that it is above the what? The par, the market price, the par value. It is always higher than 100. That 5% there is 105. It will become what? 105 because it will be higher than the what? Than 100. That is why they say it is at premium. Now, when it is at discount, it will be below 100. Let's say, for instance, that 5% now, if you want to reduce it, it will be 95%. So you look for 95% of 100, that is 95 naira, right? That is what is at what is at discount. We'll look at more illustration to that. I'm just explaining how it actually what works. Now, when you get your value of the redeemable value, right? Then you compare with the value of the convertible, right? Then you look for the higher of the two. Now, whichever one that is higher, if it is convertible, you want to convert, right? That is higher, right? Or it is redeemable, whichever one that is higher, for you to calculate the cost, the cost of what debt, you use internal rate of return, whether it is redeemable or it is convertible. Class, let me say this again. When you look for the higher of the two, if the two is being given to you in the question, for instance now, I will use, for instance now, let me say, Abidemi now, for instance, now, they said, oh, if Abidemi did not convert this bond to shares, she would redeem it at 5 naira per shares in the next 5 years. You can see that they gave Abidemi two options that, oh, if you did not convert it to, right, you will redeem it at what? 2 naira or 100 naira per share in the what? In the next 5 years. You can see the two options there. For you to get that, you need to get your value, the value of the convertible value, as well as what? You get the redeemable value. Look for the higher of the two. Whichever one that is higher, use internal rate of return, right? Use the internal rate of return to calculate the cost of what? Of debt. Now, when you look at this part, I said the cost of convertible or redeemable will be calculated using what? Internal rate of return. Whether it is convertible or you redeem it, you will use what? Internal rate of return. Class, when you want to cook soup, right? Right? Maybe vegetable, or you need some ingredients, right? You need some ingredients, right? Now, with that, for that soup to make sense, right? You need some ingredients. Is that also? Now, what are the ingredients you will use in cooking this soup? Now, that is the meaning of what? That is the meaning of this, the relevant cash flow. What you will use, class, element that you will use to determine the cost of either convertible or redeemable using internal rate of return. Ingredient that you will use to cook that soup. Is that also? Can't see your video, sir. It could be your network. Please, another person should confirm. Please, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
we can see your screen.
okay, it could be your network. Okay, Solomon, please put down your hand. Okay, now what are the ingredients, right? The relevant cash flow for calculating this yield. Now, when we get to bond, because yield, right? In bond valuation, there is what we call yield to maturity and internal rate of no. Let me don't mention all those parts, right? Now, the relevant cash flow for calculating this yield, which is the internal rate of return, right, are the current market value of the bond, which is always year zero. It's just like capital investment at year zero. The current market value of the bond, one, annual interest. Of course, the company will pay interest up to the time of the conversion into a, of course, it will be an inflow. It will be an inflow. Tax relief. Don't forget that there will be a tax relief on the interest. For instance, if the interest, if the company wants to pay interest of 10 naira, for instance, 10%, right? 10%, and the tax rate is 30%. We will now calculate 30% of 10, 10, right? Now, we will not use it to reduce the interest rate. That is why you have tax relief. You multiply, let's say it is 30%. You say 30% of that interest on the interest elements, right? We will get there, right? We will get there. You will see how we will use this internal rate of return to determine the cost of what convertible or what redeemable debt, right? Now, the next thing you need to do is that the expected market value of the convertible bond or redemption. Don't forget that either you convert or you redeem. Is that not so? Now, class, please pay attention to this, right? Pay attention to this. Now, the expected market value of the convertible bond or redemption, class. Now, don't forget that you have two options, right? Either you say you want to convert, you buy MTN bond, for instance, right now, right? Now, and you say, you have the option, you have the right, you have the option. It's just an option for you to say, you want to convert it or you want to do what? You want to redeem it. Is that not so? Now, and we said it is the higher of the convertible or and what redeemable. Is that also now whichever one that is higher, if it is convertible, this last statement here, you will just put your convertible value there. If it is a redemption, if it is redeemable, that is higher, you just put the redeemable value there. Just put the redeemable value. That is why I said it is either convertible bond or the redeem, because we don't know the higher of the two, the higher value, right? Now, it depends on the higher of the two value, right? Class. And this is the ingredient. These are the ingredients that you will use to cook the soup when you are to determine the cost of a convertible bond, right? Don't forget, you need to determine the value of a convertible bond. You need to determine the value of a redeemable bond. Then you can redeemable bond. You can now say, what is the higher of the two? It depends on how it is being stated in the question. For instance, the question may tell you that Abidemi has what is it called 200 shares in this so bank, and he has an obligation to either to convert it or redeem it in the next 10 years at what 5 naira per shares. You can see that they are giving you two options. In some question they will just tell you that the convertible bond is redeemable. Class, in some question, the question will not tell you that, you should, so that you will check for the higher of the two. Some question will tell you that, the convertible value is this. This is a convertible what? Bond. It will be clearly be stated, right? That this is a convertible what? Bond. Class, right? Without looking for the higher of it will be stated. But some question will tell you that, Abidemi have this also shares bond, right? And he may do what? He may actually convert it to shares or redeem it in the next 10 years. You can see there are two options there. So that is why you need the higher of the two. And what are the ingredients you will use to determine the cost of convertible bond is what you use internal rate of return. And these are the elements, these are the ingredients you will use to determine the what? the cost of either the convertible or the redeemable bond. Class, before we continue, do we have any question? Please unmute your mic and ask your question. Please unmute your mic and ask question. Please unmute your mic if you have question. Okay, now if that is established, I have a question here where you will see a scenario based question that will now shows that, oh, this person have two options. Either the person want to convert, right? Or want to redeem, right? Don't forget that it is your right, but not an obligation, right? You as a lender to the firm, you as a lender, you see, if you buy a bond, let's say MTN bond, oh, sorry for calling MTN bond, if you buy MTN bond, right, you are a lender, right, to MTN, right? You are a lender, right? MTN must pay you your interest and principal as at the date of maturity, right? You are the lender to the firm. So it is a cost to the firm, right? Why it is a return to you, right? You have an obligation, you have the right, you have the right to say, oh, MTN, oh, I don't want this bond again because you are looking at their share price that almost their share price don't dey make sense. So then you quickly switch, you convert it to shares. And that is a what? A rational investor, right? Now, if that is established, let's quickly look at practice question where you will have, let's just have an idea on how you choose the higher of the two. Don't forget that I have said it. Let me repeat this again. Sometimes the higher of the two may not work in a question. Now, I'm giving you this question for you to see that, oh, this is kind of a question that when you see it, you know that, oh, it has two options. Either you convert it or you redeem it. Some question will just tell you that it is the bond is a convertible bond. Simple. So whether you are using convertible or redeemable, you use internal rate of return to determine the cost of the convertible bond, right? Or redeemable what? For anyone, right? Now, let's quickly look at this question together, right? Suggested solution, right? Now, a company has issued 4% convertible bond that can be that can be converted into shares, right? That can be converted into shares. Or let me explain, or let me explain cost of preference shares so that we'll come back to this. So we round it up with this question. Or what do you think, class? Should I go ahead and explain cost of preference shares and others first? Then we'll now come back to this practice question, or should we do the practice question before we move ahead? Hello?
I feel we should do the practice question first. That will help us to understand the explanation you just gave. Then we
Okay,
can now
that's fine.
move ahead to another.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. That's fine. Okay, now a company has issued 4% convertible bond, right? That can be converted into shares in 2 years, right? That can be converted into shares in what? In 2 years. In 2 years' time. At the rate of what? At the rate of 25 shares for every 100 naira of bonds, which is the nominal value. Now, you can see from this convertible part, right, that the convertible bond can be converted into shares in 2 years. Is that not so? Now, let's say convertible, let's start from that side. Convertible, or let me just finish question. I'm coming. Okay, convertible. Now, if you want to convert it, right, that can be converted into shares in 2 years. That is, we have a convertible bond that can be converted to shares in 2 years, right? At the rate of at the rate of 25 shares for every 100 naira of bonds, right? Now, it is expected that the share price in 2 years' time, it is expected that the share price in 2 years' time will be 4 point what? 4 naira 25 kobo, right? If the bond are not converted, class, if the bond are not what? Converted, they will be what? Be redeemed at a par. Par. Class, par means what? Class, par means what?
100.
100. Thank you.
Mm.
100 naira. Thank you.
100.
Thank you. Now, at par, after 4 years, you can see that you are given two options here. That there is a convertible bond that you want to convert to shares in 2 years, right? And they say it is expected that the share price in 2 years' time will be this if you want to convert it to shares, will be 4 naira 25 kobo.